Welcome to the Daily Grind. One half of the show. I'm Mark. I got Luke. What's going on, man?
Not much, brother. I'm good. I feel today like when you go to the doctor and you're expecting to get like a man, you need to get your shit together, you're about to die kind of diagnosis. But when you leave, you're like, hell yeah, I'm doing okay. That's how I feel today after last night.
That is a very descriptive way of describing the Grizzlies win. And one I probably wouldn't have thought of, but it is.
I worry about my health.
It feels true. I mean, I think everybody worries about their health. Don't get me wrong. It's a beautiful day though in town. It's not raining anymore. It's like 55 degrees. It feels like spring. It's a little taste of spring, like shit. It feels good. It's a good day. So yeah, I'm excited. It's gonna have already had a great half of the day.
Yeah.
Doing lunch, gonna have a great rest of the half of the day. So yeah, excited about that Grizzlies win. We came on those show yesterday and we shit on them yesterday.
Yeah, we did.
And they were like, no sirree, not us Grizzlies, not with Scottie Pippen Jr.
God,
not with Jacob Gilliard and Gigi Jackson and a bunch of other G League players. No siree, not us, not these hustle players.
I don't care that you got Scary Terry. I don't care.
Well, what do we know? What do we know? The Grizzlies do get a W over the Heat last night. Hell of a game.
Dude.
I just kept thinking at some point, I don't know. Their whole first half of it was a very boring ass game. First of all, just a super boring ass game. And I kept looking up. I'm like, man, this just it feels like they should be losing, but they are not. They're down by one or up by one or whatever it was. And every time I felt like they should be losing, they just never did. Even in the second half, and in that fourth quarter, it finally happened. They started going on a run, and I was like, this is it. It was nice knowing you. It was fun while it lasted.
It over.
It was good. It was cool to go out and compete. What a moral victory. And then what do we know? What your thoughts on the game last night? First of all, before we get to that, on the show today, we're obviously going to do Grizzlies Heat in the first segment of the show. The second segment, third segment, Sean Coleman, as we affectionately call him, Statty Sean, which I'm positive he doesn't even know that. He'll find out today. He will be with us in the second and third segment of the show, so stick around for that. We'll be talking trades at the last half of the show, but let's get to this Grizzlies W. Your thoughts on the game last night?
So my thoughts on the game, specifically on the second half, was how much to be able to stop the team that was in the finals last year, to be able to stop them every time they went on a run. Because it's like, I was worried, Caleb Martin would make 2 threes and it'd be like, fuck, here we go. But every time he would, Vince would make one, Gigi would make one, Scottie Pippen Jr. would make one. And it wasn't one Jaren, it was these other guys. It was these other dudes that were making sure that they did not take their foot off the fucking gas. And it felt, the second half felt like a playoff game, man. It was weird for a team that for a game that doesn't really matter, and for a bunch of G Leaguers, it just being able to stop a team from going on a run like that is what wins you championships and wins you playoff series. And I was just really impressed by that.
Yeah. I was thoroughly impressed with a lot of the players that's not named Zaire Williams. We'll get to that in a little bit.
Later.
Jaren Jackson Jr. was not good.
He was getting double teamed.
No, don't get wrong. He struggled for a reason. He was playing through a lot of defenses, and it always feels like, he tries to go at Bam Adebayo to prove some point. I don't know. But he always struggles against him. It really does. But he just, he had lots of challenges, and some of them were just kind of bunnies. And a lot of them were they were bringing, like we talked about on the show, double teams and triple teams. And then, they needed other players to step up, and they did. Obviously Vince Williams Jr., Vince Williams Jr. had a huge game, 25, another career high from him, 25 points, 4 assists, 5 rebounds, which I believe was your pick for our stats monster yesterday. Believe it. So shout out to you.
Flying V.
But Gigi Jackson and Scottie Pippen Jr., those are the guys I want to talk about for a minute or two.
Let's do it.
Scottie Pippen Jr., and again, these guys, both Gigi Jackson and Scottie Pippen Jr., always with a grain of salt. It's his first NBA game. Gigi Jackson's like 5th NBA game. But Scottie Pippen Jr. looked like a guard that belonged because of his size and athleticism.
Yes, he did.
Something that Jacob Gilyard does not bring to the table. And we saw that last night. I do think that we saw, if there are more players back, if there are Santi and Luke back, I do think we saw Scottie Pippen Jr. maybe carve out more minutes than Jacob Gilyard on the back end of this rotation once we get some more guys back. I mean, right now they don't have anybody, so it doesn't matter. But when they do get some guys back and they have some choices, I don't know, man. I just don't think – I think for me, I would rather see them play Scottie Pippen Jr. over Jacob Gilyard if I had to pick.
Man, they might have stumbled into a backup point guard situation that I don't think they saw coming, because he did not look like he didn't shrink from the moment against the team that was in the finals last year. Like and for a point guard that can be easy to do. And I think last night was a good microcosm of the situation we're in. Gilly, that's what I call him, Gilyard. Gilly at the house, he's got a beautiful shot, but he's got to be wide the fuck open because he's the size. Otherwise, it doesn't matter. Like teams are, and you can see it. He doesn't stand a chance out there. They know, they've read the book on him now. They're closing out. He doesn't stand a chance anymore. It sucks because he's got all the tools. He's just missing 6 inches. That's what she said. Sorry. Whereas Scottie Pippen Jr. not only has all those skills that I mean, he appears to have all the skills that Gilyard has, like all the positives, plus the size, plus I guess the maturity that comes when your dad is fucking Scottie Pippen. I don't know. He looked ready for a first. I mean, and they're gonna get the tape on him too, but
sure.
I don't know. I mean, I would play him ahead of Derrick Rose. I would play him ahead of Gilyard. I would give him the backup point guard minutes at this point.
Yeah, I mean, I think that, one thing I think that, that Scottie Pippen will probably bring to this team that Jacob Gilyard does not is the athleticism, that being able to get downhill, get to the rim. And I think a lot of that comes from just Jacob Gilyard understands that he just cannot get inside on a lot of these guys because they're just too big. And maybe that there's some lacking of the confidence there. But that's not something Jacob or Scottie Pippen lacks. You saw last night, he was able to get to the rack. And again, these are not against players that are bums. And this is against Bam Adebayo. These are against real players that he's getting to the rack on. And so Caleb Martin, these are NBA players that I thought he did a great job against. Just again, that athleticism and the passing was really good too. There are a lot of good things to like about Scottie Pippen Jr. And I thought that he definitely played himself into some more minutes coming up. That's for sure. Again, Jerry's still out, got a long way to go on him, but I definitely think that he played himself into a lot more minutes than having Jacob Gilyard there. The other side of that hustle equation, Gigi Jackson, first game, again, 5th NBA game, but looked good in this 5th NBA game. The last 2 games has struggled. But I thought he looked good. Again, the athleticism, the shooting was 4 for 6 again from 3. He did that. And I guess in the MLK game, I think he did that. 17 points, 4 rebounds, just did a lot of everything. And we've seen it before. We've talked about it before. He is a pure scorer, and we know that he can do that. I think that is, the one thing we always look for Scottie Pippen, like we talked about, Gigi is what we talked about is a defensive rebound. The other things that you want to see from him. What did you think about Gigi Jackson last night?
I mean, I was about to say, I was looking for the stat. I was just doing some digging yesterday. In his last 6 games with us, he's gone 14 of 25 from 3. You're going to talk about a guy that can go out there and score. He's in the last 6 games, he's shooting 56% from 3.
Yeah,
that's
pretty
awesome.
Good.
Pretty good. Pretty damn good.
Yeah.
I don't. It's. I mean, to me, it sucks. We'll talk about it in the next segment, but Poor Zaire, man. When that's who you're competing with for minutes, and you're going. Let me see. I got another stat for you too. You got someone who's going. Oh my God, he's so bad. 2 of 17 from 3 since MLK Day. It's 11%. Like, I don't want to gang up on the dude, but like when you're competing against someone for minutes who's going 56%, like good, it's just, and someone who's younger than you, who's in his like 5th or 6th, I mean a little bit more than that game getting real minutes. Bad.
Yeah,
look.
Zaire was truly terrible last night. And this is why I also don't believe in plus minus stats all the time, because he was +6. And we all know he was truly, truly terrible. I mean, defensively, I just don't know how he's fallen this far. I mean, I'll be honest, he put him out there. He was so bad last night. So bad. And, you know, like I mentioned with Scottie Pippen, same thing with Gigi Jackson. I think that you get some healthy players back, and you get even just get Santi and Luke back. And I think you give all of these minutes to Gigi, and Gigi never sees the flow again. I think that's where I'm at on Zaire. And I think a lot of people are there too. And I hate that, because I was such a big Zaire fan in this first year, and he has just fallen so far. It just, he was so bad last night. I mean, of all the guys that played well last night in terms of just kind of a team win, he was equally as bad.
He was on. I just see what Sean said. He was on, like, that got me. He I don't even know what, that made me forget my thought. Zaire was like, he was invisible last night. Like I was texting someone. I was like, has Zaire played yet? I like had missed him, and they were like, yeah, he's playing right now. And I was like, oh shit.
That's how bad he is.
That's how bad he is. I missed him. I didn't know he was out there. You know, like it just sucks. Because it's like you said, you know, we've never, it probably seems like we like to gang up on him, but that's his fault, not ours. You know, like we've both were fans of his, been fans of his, and it sucks almost worse because we've seen how good he can be.
Yeah, it's not going well. As you alluded to, Sean Coleman is in our studio. We're gonna take a quick break. We'll get him in here. We'll be right back. We're talking trades with Sean Coleman coming up next.
Not just the level of individual talent that he plays with, but it's also the level of his mind. We haven't gotten cross-court open shot this year. Right. We haven't seen that pass a lot. Number one, you got to respect him going to the basket. There's a roller. I got to watch the roller. He has the mind to be able to say, I see all of that, but now I see this guy over here. I'm going to get him this open shot. How shifty he is to always be going forward. It's usually side to side. Yeah. His dribble moves are side to side, but going forward. Right. Which is very hard to defend. I just want to get you as many times can I get you to do this. But for him, it's not here. It is here. Which is his moves to get down the floor. It's awkward for a defender to try to catch a cadence. You dribble. So now what I do is now when you go put that ball down, I'm going for it. But with him, it's hard for my cadence. But what's my cadence for you? I don't know what it is.
Tune in to the Anthony Sane Show Wednesdays and Fridays at 12 p.m. weekly on the Bluff City Media YouTube channel.
Who do you need to step it up? Outside of David Jones, I think David Jones is David Jones.
I don't think you need him to step it up because he's been performing.
Yeah, like he's David Jones. Like outside of him, he's fine.
I think Quinterly needs to play better.
In what way? Like, I mean, he's facilitating the ball well. I mean, what do you, like, I don't...
2 at 12 from the field's not cutting it.
It's not great. It's not great.
And I don't need a runner 3 from the top of the key with 3.5 seconds left.
Is Virginia the game where Jordan Brown is going to cook? Those dudes aren't looking to run the ball.
Cook what? Dude, I thought he was going to have a freaking night. He came out with that fresh cut, lined up. And then literally within the first 15 seconds, missed a wide open layup. And then picked up 2 fouls right away.
I feel real lied to because I thought we were getting a 20 and 10 guy.
Didn't think it did anything for you.
Well, I think
we all thought we were getting a 20 and 10 guy. And we are getting that in David Jones.
I'm not even getting 20 or 10 minutes out of the guy.
Tune in to Tigers Untapped with TJ Willis and Trey Lasley every Wednesday at 3 p.m. on the Bluff City Media YouTube channel.
Welcome back to the show. Got our guy, which we affectionately call on the show, Steady Sean. I don't know if he knows that or not, but Now he does. What's going on, man?
Hold on.
Oh, you're muted. Hold on. Let me. I think I unmuted you and you.
There we go. Can you hear me now?
Oh, that sounds awful though. Yes, we can. It sounds really bad.
Now can you hear me?
You can, but it sounds really bad.
I don't know what's going on. Hold on.
It sounds like in one of those shows where you were intentionally trying to hide your voice. I love it.
That
Can
is
you
what
hear
it
me
was.
now?
Yes, we can hear you now.
Okay,
Better.
good. I don't know what was going
Yeah.
on, but there we are. So Statty Sean, I'll take it. I guess we'll run with it. So
Yeah, man. Look, I appreciate you guys taking down time out to talk with us today. We wanted to have you on. Obviously, we talk about you every day, it feels like, as our resident statistician for Grizzlies Twitter and Bluff City Media. Look, man, we're going to talk trades. We're going to talk trades in this segment. Let's start off. I want to talk. This is for both you guys, but mainly, Sean, let's start with you. Are the Grizzlies buyers or sellers? What do you think they are, and what do you think they should be?
they should be both. Sellers for this year and buyers for the future. And I think what that looks like is, if you were to put odds in a bunch of different scenarios, I think we are going to portray ourselves as sellers more likely than not. I put it out on Twitter yesterday. The good thing about this trade deadline is that it's a pretty simple, low standard for this to be a successful trade deadline for us. Move off of Xavier Tillman's expiring contract. Move off of Jitty's long-term money owed. If you can get 2 or more seconds, 2 or more somewhat decent to good seconds for those 2 players, I think that that's a successful trade deadline. And then obviously, while you're trying to potentially look at there's a situation where you could buy, that may not happen at this deadline, but one of the calling cards for Zach Kleiman is turning what happens at the deadline into potentially seeing what could happen in the summer. So selling off Tillman and Jitty, and if we're getting seconds, and we all know what the Grizzlies can do with seconds on draft night, but also setting the foundation for potentially a more significant move in the offseason, I think that's a successful deadline for them. But with that being said, like for instance, Wendell Carter Jr., who is near the top of my list when it comes to potential guys the Grizzlies should buy. He's going to be in the Forum tomorrow night. There's a deal out there that can make him worth going to get. Hey, by all means, all options are on the table. But at the end of the day, in terms of this year, I think selling's probably going to be the way the Grizzlies go.
Luke, where are you at on it?
Same. I think both is the right answer. I'm intrigued to hear you. I mean, it makes sense money wise, but moving off of, you were so ready. You said you were so quick to say move off of Jitty, and it's like I agree. Just because he is due to get 18 million, is that what his contract is? He's like due to make a lot of money.
19.
But I would also like to see us get off of one of the wings, one of the young guys that's not performing. I don't know who that is, but I mean, it's probably Zaire, but I don't know.
Yeah, how do you feel about that, Sean? I mean, where are you at on Zaire, Laravia? We do have a kind of an abundance of wings. Obviously, there needs to be some decongestion, if you will, of the wings, just in terms of minutes plays. Now you throw Gigi Jackson in there, and that convolutes it a little bit more. Where are you at on those guys?
Well, it's just it's time to move on from them. Like Zaire as well as Laravia. Roddy, I think Roddy's good depth. I think Roddy at the very least has the highest floor of the two. And who knows, maybe Laravia comes back and shows some good shooting, prowess when he returns from his injury. I'm not putting a lot of money on that. But when it comes to Zaire, when it comes to Laravia, listen, right now, there's a good chance that, if you're thinking that we potentially, like a couple of weeks ago, I would have loved the idea of taking, I know we'll talk about him later on, but taking Zaire, trading him off to another team, potentially getting Quentin Grimes. Zaire, unfortunately, out there in the NBA, I've talked with others who, covered other teams in the NBA. There's just not a lot of value out there. There's a good chance you'd likely have to add something to those players to move them. That's harder to do at the deadline than it is in the offseason. So I do agree it's time to move on from one of them, but I think that there are other ways where you can clear the roster spaces that you need to right now, potentially, like, for instance, getting GG a permanent roster spot. Go ahead and do it the easier, simpler ways. And then if you're looking to move off of Laravia, Zaire, Roddy, whomever, do it in the offseason where I think you can get a bit more creative. More teams may be interested in their services.
What do you think the chances of Xavier Tillman being on this roster after the deadline?
I think that there's probably a 50-50 chance. Now, listen, if you move off of Jitty, for instance, and you want to work out like a similar deal for Xavier Tillman long term, and then you potentially look to move off of either Adams or Brandon Clark in the summer, that's a route to go as well. But the reason why I say that I think that Xavier Tillman makes sense to move is because this year, when you've got him signed for right under $2 million for this year, the value that he offers, I think, is going to be more impactful for a contender, for a team that's looking to make a playoff run, than you, who's really not got any expectations. But if you can move off of him and get multiple seconds, which it seems like that's a potential market for him to get multiple seconds, that impacts your future. And we know how well the Grizzlies use those seconds to either identify good talents or move up in the draft on draft night. And then you could potentially use those seconds to get you a piece in the future that you could control cheaply for 4 years or 3 years, what have you. So that's why I'm saying I think that it's 50-50. I think at the end of the day, if the interest is there for Xavier Tillman, I think he could help a bunch of teams. If you can go get a similar amount on a contract and you can get multiple seconds, that's better for the long-term future of this squad than keeping Xavier Tillman. And I think the future right now is what you want to focus on more than the present.
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, I probably at the end of the day agree with you as well. I mean, as much as we love X on this show, and I know you do too. I mean, he's been nothing but a pro.
His defense is phenomenal, and your point, the fluctuation of his role, he's always remained ready. He is absolutely awesome. But at the end of the day, I to your point, I agree. He's great, but hey, if for that same reason, if he can get you assets, go get him.
This one of those things where. Go ahead, look.
We talked yesterday about him and the Cavs trade. I think you even posted it, Sean. We were talking about that.
Yes.
Tristan Thompson's out for the next 25 games, right? He got suspended, correct?
Mm-hmm.
I think the likelihood of him going is even higher. Like, I think I would even say it's like a 30% chance that he's on the roster, because I could see after I found out that news about him being suspended, I could see the Cavs. I thought they had too many bigs, but like X is better than Damian. Who was the guy that was Damian Jones, like I think you were saying, I think the value he brings this year on his current contract, I think it's just really, really, it's pretty good, pretty decent for a contender.
And he's not necessarily a guy who's going to be in a playoff rotation for a team trying to be in the playoffs, but he can play spot minutes because of how well he does against other stars. Number, I posted things in the past. Matt Herdlicka mentioned it on his latest Patreon. Make sure you check out Matt Herdlicka's great content as well. But various people have mentioned it. Xavier Tillman's ability to do well against Nikola Jokic, to do well against Joel Embiid, what he did against Karl-Anthony Towns for us, what he did last year in the playoffs for us, he can step up in the playoffs. So there are traits of Xavier Tillman that can be very, very attractive to playoff teams. So to a team like Cleveland, sure, go get it done. I think New York could be a possibility with some of the issues that they've had with their bigs. There are several different teams out there that could use Xavier Tillman's services. So if there's a big market out there for him, you've got the leverage in that situation. Go get the best value for him that you can.
I couldn't agree more. I mean, and this is one of those things where we say it's a business decision,
sure.
Right? Like this is just a contractual thing. Really, that's really what it is. The Grizzlies just do not have the money to pay him. They do not have the contractual. I mean, contracts are expiring. So if you can get something for an expiring contract, you always do that. Speaking of paying people, it's something I want to ask you, and Luke doesn't even know about this, but I do want to get your thoughts on it because Luke and I haven't really talked about it. But we're big Luke Kennard fans on this show, but he is probably the most valuable piece that you could trade now that would get you something for the future in terms of his money, what he matches in terms of salary. But most importantly, he's got that team option, and teams can get a rental with a way out if they don't like it, but also a way in if they do. And so I think a lot of teams see that as a very, very kind of just very, very valuable trade chip when he's obviously elite at what he does. And while we've talked about, Luke and I have talked about this on the show before, where he is in the wrong role right now, right? He's just supposed to be sitting in the corner shooting threes. He's not supposed to be playmaking a point. Luke, that's not who he is. But going to a team like the Lakers, where he just has to shoot the ball off of people driving, then that's a different story. What are your thoughts on Luke being moved, and if he makes more sense, more value moving him than to just keeping him all together.
I think that actually this is a good segue to the last segment in the subject that we're going to talk about. So why don't we do this? Why don't I give my thoughts in that segment on Luke Kennard?
All right, you know what? Let's take a quick break because we're running behind it. We're already at almost 30 minutes in the show. Let's take a quick break.
Segway master. That was good.
Segway master.
I learned
in the last segment. We're going to talk about some guys that we actually want to go out and get. So we'll be right back.
I'm just big on being able to vocalize what someone's role is. I always thought my best coaches were the people that let me know exactly what you expect from me. Now I might not like it.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Right. But if you come to me man to man to say, this is how we think we're gonna play you, bang, 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 and hopefully everybody understand. I'm not saying that this has not been done with this team. I'm just saying from my experience, we all have egos when we get to this game.
Right.
All of us, to the last person on the bench, you got an ego, but all of us can't be the man.
Yeah.
You got to be able to say, okay, he's the man, but what do I do and what can I do to help us be good? And if it's vocalized to you, then you know exactly and if I'm out there doing it and now I'm not getting the result from you, now we got to sit down and have another conversation. But as long as it is told to you, this is what we expect from you, this is how we want you to play, then I feel like, again, keeping this logo.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Tune in to The Anthony Sane Show, Wednesdays and Fridays at 12 p.m. weekly on the Bluff City Media YouTube channel. All right, Christian.
Yes.
You are Penny Hardaway.
I'm not.
Yes, you are.
Okay.
Today, you're going to play act, okay? Gabe, because you're a Jordan Brown apologist, you're going to be Jordan Brown.
I'm a Jordan Brown apologist. Okay.
Okay.
I'll take that.
Y'all are sitting across the room from each other.
I said, don't tweet him hate. And he's like, you're an apologist. Like, good God. But either way, continue. We're in a room together.
Why did things break down?
Jordan, we brought you in this year to be the centerpiece of our offense. You came in out of shape. Let's call it what it is. Call a spade a spade. We play fast. Told you this when we were recruiting you. We play fast. One of the fastest paces in the country. You have to be able to get up and down the floor. You have failed at that.
Oh, well, I'm leaving. So it's fine. Cool.
Tune in to On the Bluff with Christian Fowler and Gabe Kuhn every Tuesday at 12 p.m. on the Bluff City Media YouTube channel.
Welcome back to the Daily Grind, where we do Memphis Grizzlies talk every single day with you. Luke and I are usually here by ourselves. Today we got Statty Sean with us. Make sure you go subscribe to the YouTube channel because I promise you there's a show for everyone. Sean does his GBB Live podcast. You just saw Tigers typed on a promo earlier. You saw Anthony Sane, saw On the Bluff. I promise you, soccer coming back. When I don't want to see soccer, you got Lawrence Docker. He does a show as well. Something for everybody. Go subscribe to the YouTube channel. Promise it's worth it. Let's get back to the Grizzlies with Sean. We alluded to this. I asked the question before the break. Sean, your thoughts on Luke Kennard?
So Luke Kennard, it's listen. We just saw the
Be careful.
We just saw the commercial where Gabe talked about him being a Jordan Brown apologist for the Tigers. I'm a Luke Kennard apologist for the Grizzlies. I'm going to sit here and be a huge. Well, actually, I'm not. I'm not going to apologize for supporting Luke Kennard. Listen, at the end of the day, you are exactly correct. Luke Kennard right now is playing in a role that's an expanded role for him. He's not someone that's supposed to have high usage. He's not supposed to be a primary facilitator. However, past 3 weeks, over 50% shooting threes with over 6 threes per game, 70% or better true shooting percentage. Most importantly to me, a 3.5 assist to turnover ratio. He is providing exactly what you need in the role. That is a big reason why we are winning games, even though he didn't play last night. But here's what's most important about Luke Kennard. Last year, with Steven Adams, who is a better player than Luke Kennard overall, the player that many are looking at as being the reason why the Grizzlies are not competitive right now. He's the biggest loss that we've had, and it is true. But offensively with Steven Adams, this team was averaging 95 points per 100 possessions in the half court on offense, 22nd in the NBA, up through last January 23rd when he went out. When we acquired Luke Kennard at last year's trade deadline, we evolved our offense to feature him and Bain more for shooting the three. He made 54% of his threes over the 24-game stretch with us, averaging 6 3-point shots per game. And our offense averaged 101 points per 100 possessions in the half court. We were 6 points better per 100 possessions in the half court with Luke versus Steven. The goal is to have both of them there. So the point that I'm getting at is this team, we know they can play defense. This team, we know they can get out in transition. But how does this team win in the playoffs when things are more methodical? It's in the half court setting. And that's why so many people were clamoring for Luke over Dillon Brooks in the playoffs last year. All that being said, that right there is reason enough why you pay him the $15 million next year that you do, in order for when you get healthy, for you to have his 3-point element in the half court offense to support our best stars. Now, with that being said, yes, I'm on my pulpit right now, Mark.
I love it.
I'm ashamed you're not playing the organ in the background right now. With that being said, Luke Kennard at his best is performing his most valuable assets for this team when his allotted shots are the corner threes and the catch and shoot 3-point opportunities. There is a player out there by the name of Quentin Grimes of the New York Knicks, making $2.3 million this year, $4.3 million, I believe, next year. He's in his 3rd season. In his first 2 seasons with New York, he made over 40% on catch and shoot threes both seasons. He made over 45% on corner threes in those 2 seasons. The point that I'm getting at is this, is that we're talking about the Grizzlies being seller at the deadlines. Go ahead, sell GD, sell Tillman if you want to. But if you can get into a 3 or 4 team trade where the Knicks get Bruce Brown or Malcolm Brogdon or whomever, and you can go get a Quentin Grimes, or say you go talk with the Wizards and you get Corey Kispert, who's shown similar shooting numbers as Grimes. Those 2 players for this year and controlled next year, they may not have the track record of a Luke Kennard, but they do have the potential. And Taylor Jenkins has helped players like that show their shooting production to improve. If you get a Grimes or a Kispert to come and play at the trade deadline, shop Kennard all you want to, in my opinion. But unless you have a cheaper replacement coming in who can do well in those allotted shots that Luke takes, keep Kennard, let his 3-point shooting really, really shine next year when you're hopefully healthy. And for that reason, unless you find his replacement, hold on to him. But if you can find a replacement, sure, shop him, see what you can get.
Can we get an amen?
Amen. I'll give you a clap, man.
I couldn't agree more. Sean and I are always defending Luke Kennard on our Discord. So if you come in with this Luke Kennard slander, you better have some clap at, because the shit ain't deserved.
No,
we've talked about this.
Shooting. We've been last in 3-point shooting for most of the year, and you want to trade the best 3-point shooter in the league over the past 4 years. I think he's not that valuable of a player. I get that he has a certain, just there's one trait that he has, one strength. But the way that I describe it is Steven Adams is more important than him, and Steven Adams is better than Luke Kennard. But Luke Kennard is more impactful in the biggest area of weakness that this team has, and that is shooting threes at a consistent basis and elite level to help out our half-court offense. That's why I think he's not as valuable as Steven Adams, but he's right there.
Well, I mean, to your point, and most people probably don't see it like this, but like Steven Adams has elite at rebounding and not much else. Like, right. Like, like Vince Williams is elite at defending, right? He's not an elite shooter. Like, do you trade those guys? No, but the point remains that, and to your point, unless you find someone to replace Luke Kennard, like, unless you can have something behind there that you feel very confident in replacing his, like you said, 48% shooting right now in this on this team, you don't do shit. Because like I mentioned, Luke Kennard is supposed to be spacing the floor one pass away from Jaren Jackson, supposed to be spacing the floor one pass away from Desmond Bane or John Moran, so that those guys, the defense cannot collapse and it opens up the court. That is what he's supposed to be doing, not what he's doing right now. What he's doing right now is all gravy. I mean, whatever. If you get 7 assists, that's awesome, but that's not who you traded for. That makes sense. You mentioned Quentin Grimes. You mentioned Corey Kispert. What other players for you, or for either of you guys, would be guys that you would give up lots of stuff for? I mean, obviously, we know there's certain players we'll give up everything for, but gettable players that you think the Grizzlies could actually go out and afford, the teams would actually do it, like all that stuff.
Man, I'm a big Kispert fan. Like, I wanted to draft him that year. Like Sean said about the only name that I would consider trading Kennard for. Like about the only guy. I really like him. I liked him in college. Like if I could get him, on a cheaper deal, like not making 15 million. I mean, it's tough too because the cap's about to not matter, right? Or not matter. Like there's 1 year where we can sign dudes before it balloons. We're like in a couple years, these dudes on small contracts, it's gonna look like fucking gravy, right? Like if we can get like Vince's contract's gonna look amazing. Like if we can get Kispert on a deal similar, it's gonna look amazing. It's like I'm not sure. Grimes and Kispert. I'm glad you had Kispert. Those might be the only two guys that I think complement this team that are gettable. Like there's so many guys that we could go out there and be like, oh, trade machine. Oh, give me Jeremy Grant, give me Kyle Kuzma. Oh, give me every Bulls player. But I just don't, like what do we have that they want? I think Grimes and Kispert are both on teams that could be selling these dudes for different reasons,
So we can cuss on the show, and I've never seen the F so emphatically used as an adjective for gravy. Like it's amazing. It's kind of like Luke Kennard elevating our half court offense. You put the F word in front of gravy, it's just amazing. Like it's crazy. All right, so a couple of players who I think are out there. Wendell Carter Jr., who we talk about. Anthony Sane has sit here and talked about it before. Kleiman was kind of in the background during that 2018 draft. I feel that I agree with Sane. I'm not going to say that I've gotten any confirmation of this, but I do feel that Zach Kleiman was in the background behind Chris Wallace in that 2018 draft. Wendell Carter Jr. was of high interest to Memphis. Like I think there were reports where he was the only one that came to Memphis to be worked out. We know Kleiman's, he loves Duke players. I think Wendell Carter Jr. He's going to be in the Forum Friday and tomorrow night. If they want to keep him through the weekend and just for the next 2 years, by all means, that would be effing great. But the point I'm getting at is that when it comes to players, you got Wendell Carter Jr. from the, and I'm just looking at the teams that are out there that could potentially make sense. From the Wizards, I like Denny Avdia. You got Daniel Gafford as well. Those are options that could make sense. If we want to talk with Charlotte about potentially giving Nick Richards a run, I think that he is on an expiring. He could be someone that makes sense. I could see if this team wanted to really kind of go in for a kind of, not necessarily all-in move, but one that could really blossom potentially. Maybe a Nick Claxton from the Nets. Yeah, he would be someone that you would have to pay a significant amount to. But if they feel they can make other moves to where they can afford a 4-year, $65 to $80 million deal after this year, got good connection with Ja, him and Jaren will be phenomenal. Efficiency at the rim, impressive shot blocker. There are names out there that I think make sense. I could see this team definitely making a move for a center if they feel like it made sense, or potentially getting a, buried on the depth chart wing that they can go out and get. But Kispert, Grimes, Wendell Carter Jr., Nick Claxton, Daniel Gafford, Nick Richards, a lot of the names that many other teams are out there. But at the end of the day, I'll say this. All these names I'm mentioning, for the same reason I like them for the Grizzlies, there are 10 other teams out there that like them as well. And we're not going to pay the best price for them compared to other teams. Don't overpay. We are to the point to where don't overpay. Once we get the lottery this year and we know what our pick is, there's a good chance that pick's going to be even more valuable than it is right now. So do a move that makes sense when you have the most value to be able to pay. That's the offseason rather than now. So if a price is there for you to make a reasonable move for the future, do it, but don't overpay.
Yeah, I do expect them to do some cleanup moves at the deadline. I do expect them to do some consolidation moves, if you will. I don't expect them to do anything big. That's just kind of where I'm at, especially kind of how the season's gone. I think you're right. They typically also do all those moves in the offseason. I think that I saw the stat. Kleiman's done 25 trades since he's been here, and 3 of them have been in the season. Only 3 for the tired for all his moves. So don't expect anything. I would say be cautious. Don't expect anything big on the trade deadline. While we all want it to happen, I think that's something that typically he reserves for June and July in the offseason when he's really trying to extract more value out of those guys than where they were in season. I will say this, though. There are a lot of guys you could argue that their value is down right now based on how bare they are on the bench. And maybe you want to do that now versus the offseason when people have some better ideas of who they might be in the future.
The last thing I'll say is this, is that I know that with the injuries that have occurred, things outside of our control have kind of made the kind of magnified, unfortunately, the misses that have happened that have been under our control. But faith should remain high in Zach Kleiman. I said it in the spaces last night. I'll say it here. the wing has been consistently our biggest area of need so far. And I'll go further in terms of the misses that we've had. People want to talk about Zaire as well as David Roddy from that or Zaire from 2021, Jake and Roddy from 2022. But go back even further than that. Me and Mark talked about it on Locked On several times. The misses that were there for Justice Winslow, Josh Jackson, Jarrett Culver. This is a position that in Kleiman's time, he has consistently tried to fit. This has been his white whale, if you will, to be able to try to get that position filled. He's gone through trades that didn't work out. He's gone through draft picks that didn't work out. But by sticking with this formula, he found Vince and he found Gigi. And with how much success outside of that one area that Zach Kleiman has had, take what he's done everywhere else and been successful, apply the knowledge that he has of knowing how much he's missed on this one area, and think how much more he's motivated to make the right move now when it comes to that wing and also the center position. That's a perspective that I would buy into with us having Vince and Gigi kind of house money now with what we've got on them. And I would expect for there to be continuations of other moves that could really propel us to being in a situation. I'm not saying this year is going to lead us to having a brighter future than if we would have contended this year, but you certainly can see from a roster standpoint, at the very least, our biggest area of need has resulted in the development of players who can fill that need. And there could be even more motivation to make more significant moves to make this roster better moving forward.
Well, I
Amen.
mean, I always remind people that it's also the hardest position in the NBA, right? Like everybody wants a 3-and-D wing, right? Like you mentioned about all the guys that you're mentioning, they're all wings that can shoot and defend, and like they're young and on good contracts. That's what everybody wants. And so it is a position that is always a continuous search. I feel like unless you got, your guy on the roster, and to be honest, if you talk about superstar level wings, small forwards, there's not a lot. It's usually our superstars in the NBA right now are guards. Is it guard heavy? Like in terms of the actual position they play on the court. So like it's just a hard position to find too. Like so that being said, that just like as people talk about this, that's just something to always try to keep in mind. It's a very difficult position to fill. Every team in the NBA is always looking for a 3-and-D wing. Everybody. So if they could fill it, they just do it.
The biggest miss that we've had in that position has been Eve Pons to this date. So that's yeah. So yeah, Mark knows where I'm going with that. I had my Vols fandom had to show.
Yes. Go Vols.
Look, and that's the end of our show. No, that is going to wrap it up for us today. Went a little long, but that's okay. I appreciate Sean joining us. We will be back tomorrow with another last episode of the week. We'll preview the Magic game tomorrow. They do take on the Magic tomorrow night. Who knows? We might see another W tomorrow night out of this Grizzlies team. So we will see you guys then.